You're kidding me, right? You actually thought this was just tutoring. That's what she said, smirking, leaning against my kitchen counter like she owned the place. And in that second I realized two terrifying truths. 1. I just invited the most effortlessly confident girl in our class to my private study session. And 2, she was definitely flirting with me. It started as an accident, a text sent to the wrong Emma. I meant to message Emma Turner, my quiet, bookish study partner, not Emma Reyes, the class clown with the bold eyeliner and reputation for turning every situation into a joke. But by the time I noticed, she'd already replied, "Sure, sounds fun," winky face. What time? I could have backed out. Should have. But something about her casual confidence made me curious. So I said yes. That's how I ended up sitting across from her now, my textbooks neatly stacked, my anxiety barely contained. She looked around my tiny apartment, half amused, half intrigued, as if my living room was a mystery novel waiting to be solved. "So," she said, biting the end of her pen, "you really do this every week? Private study sessions? Alone?" "Yes," I said quickly. "I like structure." She grinned. "God, you're adorable." I dropped my eyes to the open notebook, pretending to write something. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear her next words. It wasn't that I'd never been flirted with before, I had. But never by someone like her. Emma Reyes was sunlight and chaos, the kind of girl who could walk into a room and bend the air around her. And me? I was the quiet one in the back row, always on time, always prepared, always safe. Or so I thought. The first half hour went surprisingly well. We went over some economics notes, her surprisingly sharp insights wrapped in teasing humor. But somewhere between supply curves and marginal utility, she reached across the table and brushed a crumb off my cheek. I froze. She didn't move her hand right away. "There," she whispered, smiling. "Couldn't focus with that there." It was ridiculous how such a tiny touch could knock the air out of me. My chest felt tight, my throat dry, and for a moment the room felt smaller, not in a bad way, but in a way that made me acutely aware of her. Her perfume, her laugh, the way she kept watching me when she thought I wasn't looking. After she left that night, my apartment felt different. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It felt like it was waiting for her voice to fill it again. By the second session, she brought coffee. "Fuel for the mind," she said, handing me a cup with a wink. The cup had a heart doodled on the lid. I rolled my eyes, but my cheeks burned anyway. She noticed. Of course she did. "You're so easy to read," she teased. "You blush like it's your job." "Maybe you should stop saying things that make me blush," I muttered. "Where's the fun in that?" We laughed and something shifted. The tension wasn't just awkward anymore, it was alive. Tangible. Something we both pretended not to notice but kept circling back to, like a song stuck on repeat. She'd lean close to explain a problem, her voice low and teasing. I'd try to focus on the page, but my brain betrayed me, replaying the way her lips curved when she smiled. It wasn't just attraction, it was something deeper, something terrifyingly real. One evening it rained. The city outside my window blurred into streaks of gold and gray. She arrived drenched, laughing, her hoodie clinging to her shoulders. "Jesus, you're soaked," I said, jumping up to grab a towel. "Yeah, but I made it," she grinned. "That's dedication, right?" I tossed her the towel, trying not to stare at the way water beaded on her collarbone. She caught me looking. Her smile softened. "You're staring," she said quietly. I swallowed. "Sorry." "Don't be," she whispered, taking a slow step closer. "I like it when you look at me like that." Time stopped. The sound of the rain grew distant. My pulse roared in my ears. For a heartbeat we just stood there, the air between us trembling with something unnamed. Then she smiled, gentle this time, and stepped back. "Okay," she said, clapping her hands, breaking the spell. "Let's get to work before I start thinking you invited me here for reasons other than tutoring." I laughed too loud, too nervous. She winked. But as we studied, I caught her watching me more than once, and every time, that invisible thread between us pulled tighter. By the third week, the line between study partner and something else was blurry at best. She'd text me late at night. "You still awake? Can't sleep. Thinking about your serious face when you explain stuff. You're kinda cute when you're annoyed." I'd tell myself not to reply. I fail every time. One night she asked, Do you ever think about girls like romantically? The question hit me like a jolt. Don't know, I typed. Then deleted it. Then wrote again. Maybe. I never really thought about it. She replied instantly. You should. Then a heart emoji. I didn't sleep that night. A few days later, during our next session, I decided to bring it up. So, the other night, I started. She looked up from her notes. Yeah. You asked if I ever think about girls. Was that were you serious? She tilted her head, eyes gleaming with mischief and something else, something raw. I'm always serious about things that matter, she said softly. And you matter. The room went silent. My throat tightened. I couldn't look away. Then she reached over, gently took my hand and said, I like you, you know. Not just as the quiet, smart girl. I like you. I felt everything all at once, fear, warmth, disbelief. I don't know what to say, I whispered. Then don't. Just don't pull away. And I didn't. Her hand was warm, steady, grounding. And for the first time I stopped trying to analyze, to label, to predict. I just felt. The next few days were a blur. The world outside, lectures, deadlines, noise faded into something distant. All I could think about was her laugh, her touch, the way she said my name like it was something soft and sacred. But not everything was easy. People noticed. Friends whispered. Someone in class asked if we were a thing. I froze, denied it, laughed it off. Later that night she texted me. You don't have to hide. But if you need time, I'll wait. I stared at the message for a long time, tears stinging my eyes. Because she meant it. She actually meant it. The next Friday we didn't study. We just sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker through the rain. She rested her head on my shoulder, whispering, Do you ever wish the world would just stop for a while? I smiled faintly. Only when you're here. She laughed softly. God, you're dangerous when you're sweet. I turned to face her. And you're impossible when you're kind. Her breath caught. Our eyes met, close, too close. Then she kissed me. It wasn't perfect, too sudden, too unsure, but it was real. Electric. Honest. When she pulled away, her eyes searched mine. Was that okay? I nodded. More than okay. And as the rain softened outside, I realized something. This wasn't an accident anymore. It was a beginning. The morning after that kiss, the city felt different. It wasn't the light or the air or the sounds of New York waking up, it was me. I moved through the world like I was holding a secret too fragile for words. Every song on the radio, every stranger's smile on the subway, everything seemed to hum with the memory of her lips on mine. Emma texted me before class. Still thinking about last night? Don't freak out. Then a winking emoji. Too late. I was already freaking out. When I walked into campus, she was leaning against the library steps, coffee in hand like she had all the time in the world. Her hair caught the sunlight, and when she saw me, she smiled, that small, knowing smile that made my stomach twist in ways I couldn't control. Morning, tutor girl, she teased. Sleep okay? I tried, I said, biting back a grin. We walked together across the quad, pretending like everything was normal. But it wasn't. Every brush of her arm against mine, every look that lingered too long, it was a reminder that something inside me had shifted forever. But secrets have weight. And by the end of the week, I could feel ours pressing down. It started with whispers. Someone saw us at a coffee shop, too close, too much laughing. Another said they caught her waiting for me after class. Like a lost puppy. I heard the tone in their voices, the smirks. College was supposed to be a place of freedom, but it was still full of small cages built from gossip and judgment. One afternoon, while I was grabbing notes from my locker, my friend Mariah leaned in and whispered, So, what's going on with you and Emma Reyes? I froze. What do you mean? She raised an eyebrow. Come on. Everyone's talking. You two look like, she paused, searching for the word, like a thing. I forced a laugh. We're just friends. Study partners. She smiled politely, but I saw the doubt in her eyes. That night, guilt ate at me. I knew Emma would hate hearing I denied it, even if it was just to protect us. Protect me. When she came over for our next study session, she noticed something immediately. You're quiet, she said, sitting down beside me on the couch. And don't say it's because of economics. I hesitated. People are talking. She tilted her head. About what? About us. For a moment silence stretched between us. Then she laughed softly, but there was a tremor underneath it. So? Let them talk. You don't get it, I said, my voice cracking. They're not kind about it. They make jokes. Her smile faded. And what? You care what they think. It's not that simple. I snapped. I'm not like you, Emma. You're brave. You don't care what people say. I do. I always have. She looked at me for a long time, her expression unreadable. Then she said quietly, I didn't think being with me was something to be ashamed of. The words hit me like a slap. That's not what she stood up, her jaw tight. Yeah, maybe it's not what you meant. But that's what it sounded like. I reached for her hand, but she stepped back. I should go, she said. Before I say something we can't take back. The door closed behind her, and the silence she left behind was deafening. Days passed. She didn't text. Didn't show up to class. Each hour without her felt like another page of a book I didn't know how to finish. I caught myself checking my phone every few minutes, drafting messages I never sent. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please talk to me. But every time I deleted them. Because what could I say that would fix something so fragile? A week later, I finally saw her again sitting alone on the campus lawn, earphones in, staring at nothing. The sight of her hit me like a punch to the chest. I walked up slowly, unsure if she'd even look at me. She didn't. Hey, I said softly. She took out one earbud. Hey. The word was flat. Distant. Can we talk? She sighed, looking up at the sky. About what? About us. She laughed, not cruelly, but in that tired, broken way that makes you want to cry. There's still an us? I sat down beside her. There can be. If you'll let it. She turned to me, eyes glistening with something sharp and sad. You're scared of me, aren't you? I'm not scared of you, I whispered. I'm scared of feeling like this. Emma stared at me for a long time, then said, That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. We didn't talk for a while after that. I threw myself into classes, papers, anything to fill the void she'd left. But every time I passed her in the hallway, my chest tightened. Sometimes she'd look away. Sometimes she'd smile faintly, like a memory she didn't know what to do with. Then one night I found her outside the library. It was late, freezing, the kind of night when the world feels too quiet. She was sitting on the steps, smoking, her hoodie pulled up. Hey, I said, stepping closer. You shouldn't be out here alone. She smirked without looking up. Says the girl talking to herself in the dark. I sat beside her. Can we start over? She exhaled smoke, watching it curl into the night air. You can't start over from the middle. Then maybe we start from honesty, I said. I messed up. I let what people think get between us. But the truth is, I miss you. Every damn day. She looked at me, then really looked. Her eyes were tired, but something in them softened. Say that again, she whispered. I miss you. She dropped the cigarette, crushed it under her shoe and said, Then stop missing me and do something about it. That night back in my apartment we didn't talk much. She sat on the couch, I made tea, both of us pretending this was just another study session. But the silence between us wasn't empty anymore, it was waiting. Finally she said quietly, I wasn't mad because you cared what people thought. I was mad because you thought I'd walk away if things got hard. I looked down. I guess I thought you deserved someone braver. She reached over, brushing my hair back gently. Maybe I just wanted someone real. Someone who's scared but tries anyway. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. I don't want to lose you. Then don't. She leaned in and kissed me slower this time, like forgiveness itself. It wasn't fireworks or chaos, it was peace. The kind that seeps into your bones and whispers, you're safe now. The weeks that followed weren't perfect. There were stares, whispers, questions we didn't always know how to answer. But we learned to navigate them hand in hand, one small moment at a time. Once, while we were walking through Washington Square Park, an older woman smiled at us and said, You two look happy. Emma squeezed my hand. We are, she said, simple and proud. And in that moment I realized something. Bravery isn't loud. It doesn't always look like rebellion or defiance. Sometimes it's just choosing to love quietly, stubbornly, even when the world looks the other way. But love, like any story worth telling, isn't a straight line. One evening, I found out Emma had been offered an internship in California. A big one. The kind that could change her life. She hadn't told me. I heard it from Mariah of all people, who said, "Congrats to your girlfriend, she's moving to LA, right?" My heart dropped. That night, when Emma came over, I tried to act normal, but it didn't last. "So, California?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Her eyes widened. "You heard." "I had to hear it from someone else?" She sighed, running a hand through her hair. "I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how." Didn't know how, or didn't want to deal with me freaking out? Both, she admitted softly. The honesty stung more than a lie would have. "When do you leave?" 2 weeks. Silence. Heavy, suffocating. Finally, I whispered, "What happens to us?" She looked at me, her voice trembling. "I don't know. But I don't want this us to be just a chapter we close." I wanted to be angry. I wanted to tell her she was selfish, that she was breaking my heart. But all I could do was look at her and think, this is what it means to love someone who dreams big. You hold them and then you learn how to let them go. The next 2 weeks were a blur of bittersweet moments, dinners that turned into long, silent car rides. Laughter that dissolved into tears. Every kiss felt like a countdown. The night before she left, she came over one last time. We sat on the floor, surrounded by half-packed boxes, the city lights flickering outside. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Do you think people ever find this again? What we have?" I smiled sadly. "Maybe not in the same way. But if they're lucky, in a way that still feels like home." She turned to me, eyes shining. "You're my home." I laughed through my tears. "Don't say that. It'll make it harder to let you go." "Then don't," she whispered. We kissed, slow, lingering, like the universe was giving us one last moment before the world spun forward again. When she finally walked out the door the next morning, suitcase in hand, I didn't chase after her. I just stood there, watching her disappear into the noise of the city, my chest aching with something that was equal parts loss and love. And yet, even as the door closed, I knew this wasn't the end. Because love like that, honest, flawed, terrifyingly real, doesn't end. It changes. It grows. It waits. And somewhere, between the distance of 2 cities and the silence of unsent messages, I still felt her. Like sunlight on the edge of my memory, whispering that maybe, just maybe, every goodbye is only the beginning of another kind of love. The first winter without her was the longest one I can remember. The city didn't change much, still loud, still full of people chasing something, but to me, everything felt quieter, colder. Every coffee shop, every street corner, every song on the radio carried a shadow of her. It was like the whole world was haunted by the ghost of a girl who wasn't dead, just gone. First, we tried to keep in touch. Calls that stretched late into the night, texts full of "miss you" and "wish you were here." But slowly reality crept in. Her messages came less often. My replies grew shorter. The distance didn't just live in miles, it settled in silence. By spring, we stopped pretending. I told myself it was for the best. That love, no matter how strong, can't survive time zones and empty promises. But some nights I'd wake up and check my phone anyway, half expecting her name to light up the screen. It never did. A year passed. I threw myself into school, then work, then anything that kept my hands busy and my heart quiet. I graduated, moved apartments, made new friends. From the outside I looked fine. But there were moments, small, sharp ones, when she came back to me. A song she used to hum. The smell of rain on the pavement. A girl with short blonde hair laughing too loudly in a cafe. And every time my heart would twist just a little. One night, out of nowhere, I saw her name again. Not on my phone, but on a poster. Emma Reyes, Voices of Change. A documentary screening and Q&A. Her picture was on it, confident, radiant, standing in front of a mural of women holding hands. She'd cut her hair shorter, looked older, stronger. The description said she was coming back to New York for a film festival. My hand shook as I read the date. It was tomorrow. I didn't sleep that night. My mind replayed every memory, every word, every almost. By morning, I decided I wouldn't go. What was the point? She had moved on. She had become someone. I was just the quiet girl from before. But that evening, as the sun began to set and the city buzzed with its usual rhythm, I found myself standing outside the theater anyway. The lobby was packed. People with cameras, notebooks, bright eyes full of admiration. I felt out of place, too small for the world she'd built without me. Then the lights dimmed, and her voice filled the room. The film was beautiful. Raw. She talked about identity, courage, and the right to love without apology. Every frame, every word carried her essence, the same warmth, the same defiance I fell in love with. But when the credits rolled and the applause thundered, I couldn't move. My chest was too tight. Then she walked on stage. And just like that, the air left my lungs. She was real. Not a memory. Not a dream. Emma Reyes, standing under the stage lights, smiling that same crooked smile, thanking people for being there. My eyes blurred, and before I knew it, I was slipping out the back door, afraid that if she saw me, she'd only see the girl who let her go. I almost made it to the street when I heard her voice behind me. Running away again, Tudor girl? I froze. Slowly I turned. She was there, hair a little shorter, eyes the same impossible green, wearing a black jacket that made her look older, sharper. But the way she looked at me, that hadn't changed. I tried to speak, but my throat betrayed me. You saw me. She smiled, stepping closer. You think I wouldn't? You're still terrible at sneaking out. My laugh came out broken. I didn't want to bother you. You looked busy, important. She shrugged. I was giving a talk, not curing cancer. The words were easy, light, but the air between us was anything but. After a long silence, she said softly, You look good. So do you, I whispered. She tilted her head. You came to see me? I didn't plan to, I admitted. But I saw the poster and your curiosity got the better of you, she teased gently. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I just missed the sound of your voice. That stopped her. Her expression softened, a crack in the armor. Still know how to hit where it hurts, huh? I smiled faintly. Guess you taught me well. We ended up walking. The city was quiet in that way it only gets after midnight, streetlights humming, a soft breeze carrying the smell of rain. We talked about small things at first. Her film, my job, how the city hadn't changed. Then came the harder stuff. Why didn't you call? I asked. She looked away. Because I didn't know what to say. I kept thinking about you, but every message I drafted felt wrong. Too small for what I wanted to say. And what did you want to say? That I was sorry, she said simply. For leaving the way I did. For thinking I could chase my dreams without dragging you into the chaos. I shook my head. You didn't drag me. I let you go. Maybe, she said, glancing at me. But I wish you hadn't. We stopped at a small diner, one of those all-night places with flickering neon lights and cheap coffee. The kind of place where time feels suspended. She ordered pancakes, I got tea. For a while, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't awkward anymore. It was full of history. Finally, she said, Do you ever think about us? I met her gaze. Every day. Even when I try not to. She nodded slowly. Me too. I laughed softly. Great. We're both terrible at moving on. Or maybe, she said, smiling faintly, we were never meant to. When we left the diner, it was raining, soft, steady, almost cinematic. She pulled up her hood. I didn't bother. I liked the way the rain felt, cold and real against my skin. We stopped under a streetlight, both hesitating. She looked at me, eyes glinting with something fragile and fierce. Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you still love me? The world seemed to hold its breath. I opened my mouth, then closed it. I don't know if it ever stopped. She exhaled shakily, stepping closer. God, I missed you. And then she kissed me. It wasn't like before, not soft or hesitant. It was desperate, hungry, full of all the words we hadn't said. The rain poured harder, soaking us both, but neither of us cared. The world could have ended right there and I wouldn't have noticed. When we finally pulled apart, I was crying not because I was sad, but because it was too much. Too real. I can't do this halfway, Emma, I whispered. If you're back, I need you to stay. She cupped my face in her hands. I'm not leaving again. Not unless you tell me to. I won't, I said, voice breaking. Not this time. That night, she came back to my apartment, the same one, though it felt smaller now, older. She wandered through it like she was walking through a museum of memories. The couch, she said softly, smiling. That's where we used to pretend to study. And fail miserably, I said. She laughed, then turned serious. Do you ever regret it? Us. I shook my head. Never. Even when it hurt. She stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. You're still the only person who ever made me feel like I wasn't too much. And you're the only one who ever made me feel enough. Her eyes filled with tears, but she smiled anyway. We're a mess, huh? Yeah, I said, taking her hand. But we're our mess. Later, lying together on the couch, the rain still whispering outside, I traced small circles on her arm and said, Do you think it's possible? To start over? She thought for a moment. Maybe not start over. But maybe. Start forward. I smiled. What does that mean? It means, she said, looking at me, we don't erase what happened. We carry it. We learn from it. We build something better. And what if we screw it up again? She laughed softly. Then we screw it up together. I leaned in and kissed her, gentle this time. Not desperate. Not afraid. Just home. Weeks passed. We didn't announce anything. We didn't post pictures or tell everyone we were back together. We just existed quietly, intentionally. Late night takeout, shared playlists, lazy Sundays reading on the same couch where it all began. Sometimes I'd catch her looking at me with that same teasing smile and she'd say, You know, this all started because you sent a text to the wrong Emma. And I'd reply, Best mistake I ever made. She'd grin. You sure? I was kind of a nightmare. Still are, I'd tease. She'd laugh, pulling me closer. Then I guess you're stuck with me. And I'd whisper, gladly. But love, even when it heals, never forgets the scars. One night we were sitting by the window, the city glowing below us, when she said, You know, I used to think love was supposed to be easy. That if it hurt, it wasn't real. I looked at her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. And now I think the real kind, the kind worth keeping, hurts sometimes. Because it changes you. It asks things of you. I nodded. Like what? Like forgiveness, she said softly. Like patience. Like courage. I smiled. Then I guess we're finally brave. She took my hand, intertwining our fingers. Yeah, maybe we are. And for the first time in years, the silence between us didn't feel like waiting. Felt like peace. A year later, the city didn't feel so big anymore. The world still spun the same way, traffic, crowds, subway rushes, but now I had someone to walk through it with. Emma had moved back to New York for good, and somehow the noise of the city had started to sound like a heartbeat instead of chaos. We'd found a small apartment together, 1 bedroom, leaky faucet, paint peeling in the corner, but it was ours. On Sunday mornings, she'd sit by the window with her coffee, editing footage for her next documentary, while I graded papers or scribbled notes for my thesis. The air always smelled like cinnamon and rain. It wasn't perfect. We fought sometimes about groceries or deadlines, or the way she left her camera batteries everywhere. But even in those moments, I knew we were okay. Because we'd learned the difference between fighting with each other and fighting for each other. Love had stopped feeling like a question and started feeling like an answer we wrote together, one quiet day at a time. One evening, we were walking home from a small film screening she'd helped organize. The sky was the color of lavender and old bruises, the kind of twilight that makes everything look softer. She slipped her hand into mine, and I felt that familiar spark, not the dizzy rush of the beginning, but something deeper. Something steady. You ever think about how weird this all is? She asked suddenly. I glanced at her. What do you mean? Just life. How one wrong text turned into all this. I laughed. I think about it all the time. She smiled, bumping her shoulder against mine. You know, I kept that first text. The one you sent me by mistake. You what? She grinned. Yup. Hey Emma. Wanna study at my place? I screenshotted it. It's in a folder called Happy Accidents. I rolled my eyes. You're ridiculous. And you love it, she teased. I do, I said, smiling. More than I should, probably. Not possible, she whispered. That night, as she worked late in the living room, I found myself watching her. The soft glow of her laptop lit her face, her brow furrowed in focus, lips parted slightly as she edited. Every so often, she'd hum softly, a habit I'd learned she did when she was content. I thought about the girl I was back then, the one too scared to admit what she wanted, too cautious to reach for something that felt out of reach. And I thought about her wild, brave, unfiltered, and how somehow, against all odds, our lives had folded together like two halves of a story that finally made sense. I walked over, wrapping my arms around her from behind. She leaned back into me instantly. "Hey," she murmured. "Can't sleep." "Didn't want to," I said. "Didn't want to miss this." She chuckled. "You're getting sappy on me." "Always was," I whispered against her neck. "Yeah," she said softly. "That's why I fell in love with you." A few weeks later, she got invited to speak at a panel about LGBTQ+ representation in film. I went with her not because she asked me to, but because I wanted to see her in her element again. Confident, passionate, fearless. Watching her talk about love, our love, though she never said it out loud, made my chest ache in the best way. Afterward, people came up to her, congratulated her, asked questions. And then one girl, maybe 19, nervous and shy, came up and said, "Your work." It made me feel less alone. I saw the way Emma's eyes softened, the way her hand trembled slightly as she said, "That's all I ever wanted to do." When the girl walked away, I leaned in and whispered, "You did that. You made someone feel seen." She smiled, brushing away a tear. "Guess we both did." That night, we took the long way home, cutting through Washington Square Park, the same place where we'd once been afraid to even hold hands. Now she laced her fingers through mine, pulling me close. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't met?" she asked. I thought for a moment. Maybe I'd still be the girl who plays it safe, the one who never takes risks. She smiled. And maybe I'd still be the girl who runs when things get real. I squeezed her hand. "Guess we saved each other, huh?" She nodded. In our own messy, perfect way. Summer came. The city bloomed. We filled our apartment with plants that neither of us could keep alive, laughed at our own incompetence, danced in the kitchen to songs that only she knew the lyrics to. Sometimes I'd catch her looking at me, that same look from years ago, the one that melted every wall I built. And every time I'd ask, "What?" she'd grin. "Just making sure you're still real." "I'm not going anywhere," I'd say. "Promise. Promise." But love isn't about promises kept perfectly. It's about choosing each other again and again, even when the world shifts beneath your feet. One night during a storm, the power went out. We lit candles, sat on the floor, eating cereal straight from the box and telling stories about who we were before we met. "I used to think I'd end up alone," she admitted. Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't think anyone would stay long enough to really know me. I reached over, brushing her cheek. "I know you." She smiled, eyes glistening. "Yeah, you do. And I'm staying." She leaned in and kissed me slow, certain like she believed it this time. And maybe for the first time she truly did. Months passed. Seasons turned. Life went on, messy, loud, beautiful. We built routines, broke them, built them again. We fought, we forgave. We learned to speak softer, to listen harder. One morning while walking through the park, she stopped suddenly and said, "I want to show you something." She led me to a wall covered in fresh paint, a mural she'd helped design. Two women standing back to back, looking toward the skyline, their hands almost touching but not quite. Between them a line of text read, "Love doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers until you're ready to listen." I felt tears sting my eyes. "It's beautiful." She smiled. "It's ours." That night, lying in bed, she whispered, "You know, for the longest time I thought love was supposed to be loud. Fireworks, grand gestures, chaos. And now?" I asked. "Now I think it's this," she said softly. "Quiet mornings. Inside jokes. Someone who knows how you take your coffee and still makes it wrong on purpose just to make you smile." I laughed. "That's very specific." She grinned. "I might have some experience." I turned toward her, my voice barely above a whisper. "You still flirt like it's your job." She brushed her thumb along my jawline. "And you still fall for it every time." "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Every single time." Years later, when people asked how we met, she'd always smirk and say, "She invited me to study and never got rid of me." And I'd roll my eyes and add, "She flirted her way into my life and refused to leave." They'd laugh, thinking it was a joke. But it wasn't. It was our truth, a love story born from a mistake, tested by distance, healed by time. A story that taught us that love isn't about perfect timing or perfect people. It's about showing up, staying, trying even when it's hard. And sometimes it's about sending the wrong text and finding the right person. On our 5th anniversary, we returned to the spot where it all began, my old apartment building, the one with the flickering hallway light and the cracked windowsill. The place where I'd first invited her, nervous and unprepared, into my tiny world. We stood there side by side watching the city buzz around us. "You realize this is where you first fell for me," she teased. "Pretty sure you fell first," I said. She laughed. "Fine. Maybe I did. But you're the one who stayed." "Always," I said. She smiled, slipping her hand into mine. "Then I guess this is our forever, huh?" I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't feel scared of the word forever. "Yeah," I said softly. "I think it is." That night, as we walked home under the glow of the streetlights, I thought about everything that had brought us here: the wrong text, the stolen glances, the heartbreak, the rain, the distance, the return. Every step had led us to this quiet, beautiful truth. Love isn't something you find. It's something you build gently, stubbornly, with the person who makes you feel like home. And as she squeezed my hand, smiling up at me through the golden light, I realized that I hadn't just invited her into a study session all those years ago. I'd invited her into my life. And she never stopped showing up. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.